Welcome back, everybody. I'm Travis with Linux Academy. When it comes to building images, we want to keep them as small as possible. And one of the ways that helps us do this is by using multi-stage builds. A multi-stage build allows us to use multiple images to build a final product. In a multi-stage build, we have a single Docker file, but we're able to go and define multiple images in there to help us build a final image. The first stage is going to be our build stage. This is where we go and install our dependencies, download our source code, and then compile and test it. The second image that is being defined in the Docker file is going to be the final product. By going and copying the build artifact from the build stage, we eliminate all the intermediate steps, the downloading of code, the installing of dependencies, and testing. All those create additional layers, which will be eliminated from the final image. Before we get started, there's a few things we need to know. By default, stages are not named. Stages are numbered using integers, starting with 0. For example, the from instruction for the build stage will be 0. We can go and name the stages. Using the from instruction, we can add as name being an arbitrary value that you can go and set. Finally, when we go and copy our build artifact, we need to make sure that we reference the build stage. We're going to start by changing it over into Docker images. We're going to create a new directory called multi-stage builds, change directories into multi-stage builds, and clone the weather app source code. We're going to create a new Docker file, execute vi Docker file, and paste in the instructions. Looking at the very top here, we have our from instruction. We are using node as the base image. We're using as to name the build stage build. Here we're going to go and set up var node. We're going to go and copy the source code to it. We're going to set var node as the working directory. And then we go and install our dependencies. This is going to be the final image that will be built. We're using node Alpine because it's going to be smaller. We do have a single argument. We're going to make sure that the version is set to v1.1 by default. And this argument is going to be used in our label where we go and set our application version. We also have an environment variable. We're setting it to production by default. And here is where we go and copy the code from our build stage. We need to make sure that we copy from the build stage. So we use -- from and set it equal to the name of the build stage. In this case, it's build. Optionally, we could use the integer set for the build stage, which is 0. We're copying var node, which is what we're using up here. And we're copying it to the final image into var node. Then we go and set the working directory to var node, expose port 3000, and then go and set the entry point. Okay, let's go and build the image. Nothing new here. We execute a Docker image build. Use the T flag to name and tag the image. The name is going to be Linux Academy weather-app. And we're going to go and tag it as multi-stage build. Over here, I am using an additional flag, which is --rm. I want to make sure that any additional images that get created do get purged out. I am going to go and override the build argument. By default, the version is set to 1.1, but I'm going to set it to 1.5. And finally, as always, we end it with a period. Now, this process will take a little longer than usual because we are building 2 images. Next, go and list the images. Here's the multi-stage build. As you can see, it's only 90 megabytes, compared to the other weather app builds, which is almost a gig. It looks like the build stage image is lingering around. I did go back and try this with a --force rm, and it didn't delete it as well, but you can either manually delete it or execute docker image prune. That's all I have for this lesson. Go ahead and mark it complete.